Alright, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all praises, honor, glory, respect, and blessings to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kwadash. Salutations to the Lord's elect on the four corners of the earth, pushing this truth and sincerity while patiently waiting for Yahweh Shai's return. And as always, I would like to give double honors to our apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, which have taught us everything we know through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. And welcome to another series of current worldwide events being brought to you by the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. This is the brother Yashamai coming back at you with another video.
Soldiers preventing protesters from taking over an airport using deadly force. Several people were killed on Thursday and more than 50 wounded in the southern Andean city of Ayacucho. Human rights groups say soldiers shot at demonstrators with live rounds.
You hear that? They fired on protesters with live rounds. Now, you would have never heard about this in the early 1900s, or the mid 1900s, or the late 1900s, or even in the year 2000. You know, you would have never heard about people protesting like this. You would have never heard about violent protests happening like this in other countries around the world. You would have never heard about martial law troops using live rounds against protesters. So you need to ask yourself, well, what is the mind state or the condition of these people that they are in for them to be protesting so violently to the point to where martial law troops have to use live rounds? What time are we living in? The fact that these martial law troops are using live rounds against protesters goes to show you what times we're living in. We're literally at the very end of Esau Edom's empire. And the closer we get to the end, the more violent protests and riots and rallies are going to become. And right before you know it, you're going to start hearing about more countries using live ammunition against protesters. People dying in the process, people being wounded, more people getting arrested, martial law troops becoming more aggressive.
Were walking with stones or other objects in their hands, but they were only stones or a sign, and in response, soldiers shot them. This is extrajudicial killings. This is murder.
The army says the soldiers came under attack and responded. The conflict is escalating. Peru is in a state of emergency. The ministers of education and culture have resigned, and protesters are demanding new elections. But on Friday, lawmakers failed to reach 87 votes needed to bring the elections forward, the protesters' main demand. The mayor of Ayacucho is angry.
We cannot allow the Congress to be out of tune with its own population in the midst of a crisis where we are bleeding to death.
The capital, Lima, has been fortified and thousands of police have been deployed. Not all the protesters have been violent. On Friday, police didn't fight these demonstrators, instead escorted them as they marched peacefully. After 9 days of social unrest, Walter Mendoza remembers how his indigenous Ashaninka community suffered during the armed conflict more than 30 years ago. On Friday, he marched for peace.
We are here because our Ashaninka brothers died, and now we don't want violence.
Peruvians who say they're fed up with the violence, not only from now, but from a history of an armed conflict in the 80s and 90s that left more than 60,000 Peruvians dead. That's why these Peruvians are saying they want peace now.
And something else you must know too is that a lot of those Peruvians are Israelites, okay? As you see right there, that one guy with the red war paint on his face, you know, because there's a difference between war paint and makeup. Okay, that dude had war paint on his face, but just from the looks of him, right, he looked like he could be from the tribe of Gad. He looked like he could be from the tribe of Zebulon, because we know Guatemalans and, you know, Gadites, they kind of do look alike, you know. So, you know, he could be from the tribe of Zebulon. He could be from the tribe of Gad. You know, he looked like a so-called North American Indian, which also goes to show you that, you know, Israel has been scattered on the four corners of the earth. So you're not gonna just find Gadites or Zebulonites here in the Americas. You're also going to find them across the globe as well.
Which was one of the 15 regions under curfew. It was at the center of the violence during the 80s and again now. President Dina Boluarte has called on governors and church leaders to join government officials and begin dialogue with leaders of the most conflicted areas. But Boluarte has also said she supports the police and the armed forces. Mariana Sanchez, Al Jazeera, Lima, Peru.
So as you see right there, right, there's a current war going on between martial law troops and protesters. Okay? Go ahead and close that out. Okay? Now check this out. This is the book of 2nd Esdras, chapter 15, verse 16. It says, "For there shall be sedition among men." What is a sedition? A sedition is a rebellion or a uprising against a higher authority or a government. What's an example of a sedition? Protests, riots, rallies. Okay, just like how you saw in that video. Okay? Basically, there were protesters who was trying to take over an airport in Peru. And basically, you know, some martial law troops were dispatched to basically clear out that area. And what did you see? You seen several protesters being shot at. Some of them were shot wounded. You know, some of them died. Okay, so indeed, there shall be seditions among men, and invading one another. Right, invading one another. You're going to have protesters invading the streets by the thousands. Okay? Just like how these protesters try to invade an airport to take over it. It says, "They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power." You see that? The course of their actions shall stand in their power. So, in other words, the course of the actions of these different governments, the course of their actions is going to stand in their power, because at the end of the day, the government is the one with all the firepower. Okay, so the course of the government's actions is going to stand in their favor, in their power. Okay, even if they enforce the law, they will use force, physical force. Their military, their militarized policemen, the DHS, the National Guard, in the form of martial law troops, in order to contain the protesters. You see, so the course of the government's actions shall stand in their power. Now let's read verse 17. Okay, 2nd Esdras 15, verse 17. "A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able." Why is that? Because in the hour of martial law, you have martial law troops blocking off your exits and your entrances into different cities. They'll block off your entrance and your exits into different cities by MRAPs, troops clad in black armors with riot shields, spike strips, barricades, tanks. This is how they will block off your exits and your entrances into different cities. Okay, so with that, I'm going to say shalom. Is on to the next one.